can mute everything if you'd like me to mute it. Happy New Year.
Oh, wait, sorry.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, it is a little after 6:30. Sorry, I'm late. Calling to order the meeting of the Planning Commission for Monday, January 12th. It is 6:32 p.m. We will stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Sean, do you want to?
Sure. Place your hand on your heart. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Secretary Damian Sanchez, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Tang? Thank you. Commissioner Lee?
Here.
Thank you. Vice Chair McMorris?
Here.
Thank you. Chair Kratman?
Here.
Thank you.
Tonight's meeting is live streamed on Cable 3 and on our online platforms. To prevent any overlaps in comments, each commissioner will be called upon to speak. Section 1 is public comment. This is the time set aside for members of the public to address the Planning Commission on items of interest that are not on the agenda, but are within the subject matter and jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the Planning Commission cannot answer any questions or take any action until such time as the matter may appear as an item on a future agenda. If you wish to address the Planning Commission, please fill out a speaker card that's available on the back table. Once completed, kindly submit the card to the recording secretary. Speakers will be called to the podium one by one. Each speaker will be given up to 3 minutes to speak. Secretary Sanchez, are there any note cards or requests for public comment?
No public comment at this time, sir.
Okay. Moving on to the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered routine, and recommendations will be approved in one motion unless a member of the Planning Commission or the audience requests separate discussion. Would any of the commissioners like to pull any items for a separate discussion? No. Okay. Approval of the minutes.
Any member of the public?
Oh, would any of the member of the public like to pull an item for a separate? Okay.
No public comment.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, approval of minutes from November 10th, 2025, Planning Commission meetings. Do I have a motion? Has everyone had a chance to review those? Is there a motion for approval?
I move to approve.
Okay.
I second.
Okay. Secretary Sanchez, could you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Tang? Thank you. Commissioner Lee?
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Chair McMorris?
Yes.
Thank you. Chair Kratman?
I will abstain, I was not here.
Okay. So 3 A's, 1 abstention. Motion passes.
Okay. Now is the time for the public hearing, the real meat and potatoes. All right, so Director Stewart, to Wartsert?
Yes,
I'm going to butcher that.
that's okay. Thank you, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. As mentioned, copies of the agenda are available this evening on the city's website at www.sangabrielcity.com, and also on the table that is by the entrance. Anyone wishing to speak on an item this evening and are not the project applicant, please fill out a speaker card and submit it to the recording secretary. And speaker cards are also available to the public. Please write down the item number that you would like to speak on, and speakers will be called up one by one to the podium during the public hearing portion of each item. And as mentioned, each speaker will be given up to 3 minutes to speak. There are two public hearing items this evening to be considered by the Planning Commission. And for each item, staff will provide a summary of the staff report, followed by any clarifying questions from the commission. And then prior to the close of the public hearing, the commission may ask questions of staff or the applicant. However, once the public hearing is closed, the opportunity for public comment will end. And once the public hearing portion is closed, the item will move to commission deliberation. And Chair, with that, staff is ready to present item 3A.
Go ahead when you're ready, Christine.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. The item before you tonight is a request for the approval of a conditional use permit to allow the sale of beer and wine within an existing restaurant. It's a business called Senmo Street Food. It's located at 534 East Valley Boulevard, Unit Number 1. The subject property is located on the south side of East Valley Boulevard between Allegro Square to the west and San Gabriel Boulevard to the east. The restaurant business is within a shopping center known as Valley Plaza. The project site is zoned CCT for commercial center within the Valley Boulevard specific plan area. The site has a general plan land use designation of commercial specific plan. The existing restaurant business, Senmo Street Food, serves traditional Chinese night market cuisine. The current hours of operation are 11:30 a.m. to 2 a.m. daily, and they are closed on Tuesdays. That will not be changing as part of this request, and there is no live entertainment request as part of the application. The applicant is requesting the approval of a CUP to sell beer and wine for on-site consumption, which requires a Type 41 ABC license, and no distilled spirits or liquor would be allowed on the premises. In terms of compatibility of uses, there are MUT-zoned commercial sites to the north and east, CCT-zoned residential sites to the south, and CCT-zoned commercial sites to the west. The proposed application has been reviewed by the San Gabriel Police Department, and they have included several conditions of approval, which are included in your staff report packets tonight. And they include the following. Beer and wine should only be served in conjunction with food and not sold separately. It should require the installation of an additional surveillance camera on site near the cashier, and management should be notified immediately or shall immediately notify the police department of any crimes that occur inside the business location or any other areas under management's control. And the police department can also seek review of the CUP for this location and request reevaluation for any public safety issues. Allowing the operation of the proposed restaurant business with the alcohol license would support economic goals 4.1 and 4.2 of the general plan. In determining whether to approve a CUP application for alcoholic beverage sales, the commission shall consider the following findings. These findings were also made in the staff report packet tonight. The project was reviewed for compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, and the project is exempt per guideline section 15301, which is a class 1 exemption for existing facilities. The public notice for this application was mailed notices to all property owners and tenants within a 500-foot radius of the project site. The notice was posted at the project site, as shown in the photo, and agendas were posted at City Hall, the post office, and the public library, and it was also in the San Gabriel Sun on December 31st, 2025. With that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving planning case number CUP 25-015 for a conditional use permit at 534 East Valley Boulevard, Unit Number 1, to allow the on-site sale and consumption of beer and wine, and to grant the determination of public convenience and necessity for an existing restaurant business, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Christine. Now it's time for any questions from the Planning Commission for Christine. Commissioner Lee, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Commissioner Tang, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Vice Chair McMorris?
No.
I don't have any questions either. As usual, you're very thorough.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the time for public comments. Have there been any public comments? Secretary Sanchez.
No public comment at this time, sir.
Okay. Would the applicants like to speak at this time? Or no? No. Okay, you don't have to. Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think I agree with the finding and the staff recommendations. I think it's compatible with the area. So I would like to move to approve the projects.
I will second. Okay.
I'll call roll.
Can you call roll, please?
Yes, sir,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Commissioner Tang?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Lee?
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Chair McMorris?
Yes.
Thank you. Chair Kratman?
Yes.
4 ayes, motion passes.
Congratulations. Okay, so the next item up on the agenda is 1718 South New Avenue, planning case number CUP 25-016, conditional use permit. The applicant is Fang. Presentation will be made by Samantha Stewart. To Seward.
Thank you, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. This is the second CUP for this evening. As mentioned, planning case number CUP 25-016. The subject property is located on the northeast corner of South New Avenue between Valley Boulevard to the north and Ralph Street to the south. The subject property is zoned MFR for multiple family residential core. And this is also within the Valley Boulevard specific plan area, and the general plan designation is commercial specific plan. North and south of the property are other MFR zoned lots. East are R2 zone lots, and west are R1 lots within the city of Alhambra. The subject lot is approximately 3,400 square feet in size and is currently developed with an existing restaurant that was constructed in 1972. There are 4 existing parking spaces located east behind the existing restaurant, accessible from Ralph Street. The request this evening is for on-sale beer and wine in conjunction with the existing restaurant. As mentioned, type 41 for this type of ABC license. The subject unit is approximately 882 square feet in size. The existing floor plan includes 3 booths, 3 tables, and the remaining space is used for service counter and kitchen purposes. The existing hours of operation for the business is 5 p.m. to 12 a.m. This is Wednesday through Monday and close on Tuesdays. With regards to compatibility of use, as mentioned, to the north and south are other MFR zoned properties, and this includes an existing air conditioning retail business as well as an optometry store. To the east are R2 zone properties, and as mentioned, across the street is the city of Alhambra. There are currently 16 active on-sale retail beer and wine license that have been approved by the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control within the census tract, including many of the existing businesses that are currently located on Valley Boulevard. And the first application is an example of one of those licenses that will also be approved within this tract. Planning staff and the City of San Gabriel Police Department have included conditions of approval to ensure that the proposed use will be compatible and harmonious with the neighborhood. The Police Department has provided conditions of approval, which are attached to the resolution. And similar to the previous application, they include the installation of surveillance cameras, as well as management to notify the police department in case of any issues that may occur on the property. And then also the police department can request to review the condition, a no-use permit, if the public safety reasons arise. For general plan consistency, this application is consistent with economic goal 4.1 and also 4.2 for creating a vibrant business community. And the application was reviewed per California Environmental Quality Act requirements, and the project is exempt under Section 15301, Class 1 for existing facilities. This application was noticed both in mail posting at the property, and the agenda was posted at City Hall, the post office, and the public library, and advertised in the San Gabriel Sun. And so with that, the recommendation from staff to the Planning Commission is to adopt the attached resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Gabriel, California, approving planning case number CUP 25-016 for a conditional use permit at 1718 South New Avenue to allow the on-sale and consumption of beer and wine, and to grant the determination of public convenience and necessity for on-sale of alcohol in conjunction with the existing restaurant, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. And this concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Sam. Are there any clarifying questions from Planning Commission?
Thank you, Chair.
Go ahead.
I have a quick questions for Samantha. Attachment C is one thing talk about is the over concentrations of alcohol license. Do we as a city have a plan to kind of limit or to address the issues?
That would be up to the Planning Commission to determine whether the necessity and the convenience for this application, whether it makes sense economically to approve for the business, and which is why it's a part of the findings within the resolution and the action that's required of the Planning Commission this evening. It's one of the determinations by the Commission whether to allow for this over concentration in order for the business to add this additional use to their operations.
Okay. So my question is, as a city, do we have a plan to address something like this, like in the works or anything?
No, not at the moment.
Not at the moment, okay. And then if we want to take on this role, this body would be the one to start working on it, or is it council, city council?
If I may, Chair.
Yes.
Thank you.
Please.
The global kind of approach to the city could be initiated by the Planning Commission with some form of a recommendation to the City Council. The amount of work that staff would need to do in order to catalog, account, map, do all the things that would be required to have kind of an overall look at how this is all laid out in our city would be substantial. So we would need to get a nod from the City Council to see if that is something that they are interested in doing. And then it would come to the Planning Commission once that work was done. And then the Planning Commission could recommend some general approach if it is a concern of the body as a whole or as a majority. And then the City Council would consider it, and it would come in as some type of a zoning amendment. Right now, your authority and role is on one-by-one basis, individually, which is difficult to
Yeah. It's not-
to deal with any other way, other than to kind of look around the neighborhood, everybody else has one, so how can we say no to this one?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's-
that would be like either,
Yeah.
like you look at it case by case and you say, oh, okay, people might say, okay, it's fair, not fair, you know, like, right?
Exactly.
So we need to have a guidelines if we wanted to address
I agree.
something like oversaturate, over concentrated situations.
Well, if you have a vibrant restaurant district, you're going to have a lot of restaurants that want to serve beer and wine with their meals, and the people will want that as well.
I see that.
So I think one of the pitfalls of it is you start picking winners and losers of who gets this and who doesn't. And it
Yeah, that's
could-
why I'm saying.
It could get
like,
us into
It could
trouble.
be like a fair and unfair
that's probably your-
treatments and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
you-
So
you-
we need to have a guidelines and stuff.
You would have to have some objective measuring stick that you could apply overall, not on an individual basis. And I think that the state law recognizes the fact that there are areas here in San Gabriel and in other cities. There's a couple of blocks in Vegas, for example, where there is 450 restaurants on a stretch of 10 blocks. And
Understandable.
every one of them has a beer and wine license at least, if not liquor. So, yeah, it's when we live in a very dense community, the general state law it's difficult to kind of apply reasonably.
No, I mean, like, it could be like a zone, different zones, and then different areas, and then, right, you can map it out.
Absolutely. Well, that's, you can map that out now, and you do. You have commercial zones, retail zones, which allow a restaurant to exist and alcohol to be sold, and you have residential zones which don't.
I'll just point out too that where it says that this is the overconcentration to when the ratio of licenses to population in the census tract exceeds the ratio of license to population of the entire country. Oh, no, I'm sorry, entire county. So there's going to be areas where I think there's very little going on where with alcoholic beverages, there's going to be some that are saturated just by nature of the what type of area it is. If it's zoned for commercial, if it's zoned for, restaurants, things like that, there'll probably be more. But I totally, I get your point. I hear you.
Sure. I rest for now, and then I will deliberate later.
Okay. Are there any other questions from any of the other commissioners? Commissioner Tang? Vice Chairman Morris?
None for me.
Okay. I have no questions either. Very thorough. Good. Thank you. Okay. Are there any public comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Would the applicant like to speak or no? Okay, that's fine. Okay. Would a commissioner like to make a motion?
Before we move on, can we say a quick deliberations?
Sure.
Okay. So the reason I brought it up about this over concentration is, for now we don't have a guidelines to kind of like to address that, right? In the future, if we would like to keep our city as what it is right now, then we should have some kind of guidelines or plans to address over-concentrations. What I'm saying right now is I do not have any issues with approving the applicants. However, for the future, when we are constantly approving these licenses, right? So it is going to be oversaturated. However, if we want to keep the nature and the whatever the San Gabriel city is, then we should address this in the future. We learn from over concentrations of massage places in the past, right? I think the history can repeat by itself. So that's what I'm saying. This is my comments, and I rest.
Okay. Any other comments?
I just, I'm going to use one of our friend, fellow Commissioner Jerry Swartz's questions. I just want to ask the applicant that they're in total agreement with the conditions of approval? Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay. Any motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
I will second.
Commissioner Tang,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
Vice Chair McMorris,
Yes.
Chair Kratman.
Yes.
4 ayes, motion passes.
Okay. Congratulations. I hope your business thrives. Thank you. Neat. So now we're moving to a little planning commissioner workshop led by
Chair and commission members. We prepared a fairly short presentation which outlines basically some of the pretty basic duties, responsibilities, authorities, and things of concern that the planning commissioner should know about, should learn. I'll walk you through this. I think that we're pretty intimate forum here, so if you have a question, just go ahead and let me know, and we can stop, and I'll answer the question rather than waiting till the end. So we can just kind of walk through this. Again, this is not all-encompassing. This is not intended to make you experts in planning law or zoning law. But this just simply highlights some of the things that are important in your function as a planning commissioner for the city. We're going to do a general overview, kind of talk a little bit about the difference between legislative and quasi-judicial matters, talk to you a little bit about avoiding due process and bias issues, about findings for various matters that you're deliberating, a little bit about CEQA, and then last but not least, a little bit of a Brown Act primer, just consideration of Brown Act and how it applies to your functions. Planning Commission is created by the City Council. Our municipal code provides that there will be 5 of you. You have to live in the city. You are appointed for 2-year terms. Majority of you, so 3, is the minimum to constitute a quorum. As you know, you elect or select one of you each year for a chair. Council has the power to appoint staff that assists and serves the Planning Commission, and our municipal code, section 33.40, lists your powers and duties. It's in the code. It has probably 8, 9 sentences, paragraphs about your various powers, but we're basically going to cover a lot of that. So what is a planning commission? Planning commission is a body that is a planning agency for municipalities. It's created by government code, by state law. It is, however, a body that each city council individually can choose to create or not create. In other words, you don't exist by the mandate of the state law. State law provides that planning commission can be formed in a city, and it's up to each individual city council in each city as to whether or not they want to form a planning commission. Most cities do. There are cities, however, who don't have a planning commission. In those cities, the city council themselves serve as the planning commission. So the duty of a planning agency, the duty of what you do as a planning commission is a duty that's inherently in the city council, and then the city council chooses whether or not to delegate those duties and responsibilities to a separate advisory body and decision-making body to some extent, obviously. Again, the city council assigns duties for its staff and the commission, and staff obviously assists in all their functions, prepares the staff reports, and works with that. Some of the duties in 3340 we listed here: plans for development or beautification of the city, private buildings, works, streets, and vacant lots, plans consistent with future growth and development of the city, performing your own acts necessary to carry out the provision of conservation and planning laws of the state, maps of the city at council's direction, and then make suggestions or recommendations to the city council from time to time regarding planning and zoning matters generally, just like what we talked about. If majority of you has a concern about too many liquor licenses or ABC licenses being issued in the city, and you would like to see if there's a way of potentially limiting that number or controlling that number better than it is controlled now, that's a recommendation that would go to the city council, and if the city council has an interest in obtaining your recommendation on that, they would allocate the funds necessary, the resources for that, or to have that prepared. Because again, to use that as an example, make that decision, to be able to bring to you from staff a comprehensive report and a layout, foundational, something that you can really sink your teeth into and understand, would be a substantial amount of work. I don't know how many licenses we have in the city, but I would imagine it's in the hundreds, just in the beer and wine, because of all the small restaurants that are in the city. So it is the city council controls the purse strings, in other words, to be blunt about it. Community Development Department is the department under which the staff is staffed for the Planning Commission. There's Building and Safety, Economic Development Department, Neighborhood Improvement and Code Enforcement, Planning, which is your division, and then CDBG. And again, Community Development Director with, through City Council's budget appropriations, assigned staff that, and planners to fulfill the duties and obligations that assist you in making decisions.
This might be outside what you're actually presenting, but what is the CDBG? I've never seen that before.
CDBG
Yes.
is, it's the federal money being a Community Development Block Grant Fund. It's federal money that is allocated through the county to each city if it has what they call census tracts, tracts where certain income level people are living. And the city, we have, I think, 2 or 3 CDBG areas, and that money that comes from the county can be then allocated for various purposes to assist in those areas. And you,
In that location of the city.
it doesn't have to be in that location.
Okay.
For example, if the council decides to allocate that money for a community center in the middle of town, with some programs for young people who get out of school early and have no parents at home because all the parents are working, then even though the community center may not be located in a census tract, but the service, who they serve or who the benefit flows through, as long as that can be identified, it can be used for that purpose.
Okay.
You will see, if you follow city council agendas, usually in May, I think, April or May, the CDBG allocations are being provided. So the staff comes to the city council and says, this year we got $76,000, and here's how we propose to use it. And then community organizations that look for that money or want that money can come in front of city council and say, hey, you know, I'd like to be eligible for, you know, a Boys and Girls Club or YMCA or whatever, to get some of that money. And then the council-
Refurbishments in
yeah.
Lugo Park or
Yeah,
whatever.
to do
Okay.
something. And the city council can then make decisions on how that money, as long as legally benefiting the right identified population, it is, yeah, it is up to the council to decide. It is a administrative quagmire. It's because what happens is the city gives the money to an organization, then the organization has to spread that money around to whatever it is that they're doing, whether it's, you know, midnight basketball or you know, Wheels on Meals for seniors or whatever it is, and then they have to account how that money was spent, bring it back to the city, and then we sometimes get audited by HUD, by the federal government, to see if we're applying it correctly. But it is a good resource of funds that helps people who need help. So it is a good thing. Judicial versus quasi-judicial matters. Legislative versus quasi-judicial matters. My apologies. The Planning Commission has several functions. Generally, you do not make rules. You do not actually do zoning changes. You do not actually provide for development standards. You make recommendations to the city council. Like if we're making a zone amendment that has to do with land use or zoning or anything that is in your jurisdiction, staff brings you a resolution recommending these changes to the city council. And ultimately, the decision of whether or not to do it is then taken up by the city council. One example of that was the inclusionary ordinance that came from the Planning Commission, went to the city council, and then city council didn't move forward with it. Most of the items that Planning Commission moves forward generally get approved, sometimes with some changes. So that's a legislative function. You're basically making law, and you're actually recommending to the city council what the law should be in a city. Quasi-judicial function is what you did today. It's a discretionary function of issuing out permits. Most of the time is a conditional use permit. In some instances, Planning Commission will sit over determination of nuisance. In other words, if there is a parcel that is badly maintained, it is trash, it has a house that's falling apart, it's a nuisance. That item can come before the Planning Commission. I don't know if it's in our city. I don't think we do it here. No. In some jurisdictions, Planning Commission can sit over and make a determination of nuisance. And then staff can move forward with abatement unless that determination is appealed to the city council, in which case then the city council either confirms it or overturns it, and then staff acts accordingly. So you have the two types of functions, and it is important to remember the difference, especially for quasi-judicial matters, because in quasi-judicial matters, and we'll get to in a minute, we're going to talk about bias and due process.
Just a quick question. So if you were to recommend whatever, we're going to change an environmental rule, or we're going to change an alcohol concentration rule or whatever, that couldn't happen right anyway because you have a Brown Act, and that would have to go, and it's not on the, that particular issue is not on the agenda, right?
Oh, for today, you mean?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
today.
no,
So for
yeah.
instance, I mean, we could have a conversation about that, but it's really a philosophical conversation. It has,
And actually, you could not have an extensive even conversation about it, because the Brown Act precludes you from even deliberating. So making decision is one thing, but even talking about it, there is a case out of Thousand Oaks where in a public comment, somebody basically started talking about things that the city council had some concern about. And all of a sudden, it broke into a discussion. And it went like for 6 minutes. And the reason I remember that is because somebody sued. Somebody said you violated the Brown Act. The city council deliberated something that was not on the agenda. The public comment is not meant for an exchange of thoughts and conversation. So there was a violation of the Brown Act, and the court said 6 minutes doesn't violate the Brown Act. But it does not, yeah. But they didn't say
7
whether 7 minutes would.
Did they go 6-7, 6-7?
Yeah, no, so that's all the guidance I have. But the point is that we are governed by rules of being very transparent and only doing things in public, and only when the public knows that we're going to do them. And that rule applies to the city council, and it does apply to the planning commission as well, any legislative body, yes.
Just to go back to the same topic earlier when Commissioner Fang brought up that limitations or some kind of guideline for the licenses.
Uh-huh.
Since the topic is related to that, would that be a Brown Act violations? Or would that be better talk after when it's approved and then we talk about it? Because it's kind of related, I think, so it wouldn't be a new agenda, I would say.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, a very good question. The discussion of, as we had right now, the discussion about, well, you know, I'm concerned about oversaturation, what can we do about it? That level of discussion at the item that was before you is not inappropriate. I think that's perfectly fine. If you now then all of a sudden went like, well, one commissioner says, no, I think, you know, I don't think we should limit this in this area, I think we should, now all of a sudden you're going away from what's on the agenda. On the agenda is this restaurant, this CUP, this liquor license, and now you're talking about, well, where we could allow it, how we would do it, what, you know, what, it has nothing to do with this one particular license. Now you're talking about creating a plan for the city. Now I would have said, why don't you instruct staff to agendize it if the majority of you wishes to discuss it, and then we'll bring it at the next possible meeting, and then you can have a agenda item that's discussion and potential direction of the staff, and then you can spend as much time as you want talking about how to do that. But that's a very good question. No, because it's not on the agenda. We are still under agenda, and we'll get to some Brown Act considerations at the end of this meeting. And again, I would, whenever you have time, let me know, and I'll spend, you know, an hour with you or however long you have, and we'll go over the Brown Act in just a lot more detail that these folks already know. Yeah. Quasi-judicial oral, we covered that. Administrative hearings, take testimony, take public comment, open a public hearing, et cetera. You're a decision maker, act like judges applying rules to facts and evidence rather than creating law, creating policy decisions. So, and I've already went over that. What is the staff's role? Again, before an item comes before you get this agenda packet or get the digital version of it, a lot of work has gone into it. So Planning Commission staff will prepare a report. It contains a professional analysis. It'll contain a recommendation. That recommendation varies, but generally it reflects the professional opinion of people that worked on the particular application. Again, recommendations are based on a long period of work. We obviously staff meets with the applicant, we meet with our departments. That's why you have police department conditions, you have public works conditions. All those things are being put into the mix before the item comes before you. What is important to remember, and it does tend to get forgotten at times, at council level and at planning commission's level that I've seen, and that we're not an advocate for the project. We don't have a horse in the race where when this project comes before the planning commission or before the city council. Staff did all the work that they needed to do. They reached a decision, they reached a recommendation. You generally don't see projects that are not recommended because people don't, I've seen it happen. People want to do something. They want to, build a restaurant in a place where it doesn't allow restaurants, or do something land use related that's just not permitted. And staff will tell them, we cannot recommend this to the planning commission or to the council. And the applicants say, yeah, I put my money down, I want a hearing. And they'll come before you. It rarely happens. I don't think I've seen it happen here at planning commission. But sometimes you'll get a developer or an applicant who just says, we'll stand before you. No, staff is wrong. This is the reason why I want to do this. And then you deliberate. I mean, if the staff didn't recommend it because of some gray area that is not breaking the law, then, or the existing zoning, then you have the ability to say, no, staff was a little bit too strict, or staff was a little bit, and you can overturn it. But if it pertains to, hey, you can't put a restaurant in a R1 zone. You can't call it a, my home, and have people park and come and you serve food to them in your kitchen for money. That's a restaurant, so, and it's not allowed in that zone. So then you really don't have the discretion, and we'll tell you that. Staff will say it in the staff report, I will say it from the seat. What the applicant is asking for is illegal. It is unlawful under the current existing zoning. He didn't ask for a variance, so you really can't consider the item for approval. So it's just, we don't work for the applicant. Staff doesn't work for the people who apply. We don't have anything to gain from the project being approved or not being approved. We work for the city and for you preparing these reports and these items before you. Due process and bias issues, those we talked about in legislative, quasi-judicial decisions, that is what is applicable. Fair treatment of those similarly situated, reasonable advance notice, a reasonable opportunity to be heard, impartial decision makers. Okay, that people are afforded due process that come here before you. They have a public hearing, they have an opportunity to stand up there and tell them what they want you to hear. Treatment of those similarly situated. Perfect example today. Two almost identical applications right next to each other. And if you granted the one and didn't grant the other, one way or the other, doesn't matter which one it was, without some great overriding reason, something that and we get to findings in a minute, you would be violating due process because you're not fairly treating those who are similarly situated. You don't really, it's arbitrary and capricious. You don't really have good reason that is based in substantial evidence before you to say, you get one, you don't get one.
And just the reasonable advance notice also if we were to create a new requirement or whatever.
Right. And,
Okay.
and also, obviously, do notice of the hearing, we post, Brown Act requires us to post the agenda 72 hours before the meeting. The people who come before you with their projects and applications know much in advance of that when the hearing is going to be. And the same thing applies to the 500-foot notice. You'll note that most of the projects that we do have a publication to all properties within 500 feet of the project, and that is a notice to neighbors. That's letting people know, hey, if you have something to say about this project, good or bad, this is the time to come. We're going to be dealing with it on this date at this time. And then some neighbors can come, whoever has an interest. Bias, prejudice in favor or against one thing compared with another, not being fair.
The most I saw come out when we did that senior living facility down by the railroad tracks.
Yes.
there were quite a few people from that neighborhood who
Right.
had opinions about parking and stuff like that.
Right.
But generally, like little restaurant CUPs.
The tower, Verizon tower, well, I don't know if it was Verizon or T-Mobile, the communication tower,
That was before.
that drew a bunch of people.
That was before my time, so.
Yeah, it was, so, and then bias. So I'll give you an example. You have an applicant that comes before you here, a restaurant owner or whatever. He lives next door to you. Okay, he's your next door neighbor for the last 10 years. And for the last 10 years, you guys have been butting heads. His dogs bark too loud. Your kids kick the ball over the fence. Your lights are bright. His music is loud. Back and forth. You've been to small claims court trying to get money from one another. And then this person stands up in front of you here, entitled to fair treatment and due process. There's no conflict of interest. There's not financial gain that you have or don't have. But are you going to be able to sit here and impartially make a decision about whether or not to grant that application? So, and I've had similar instances. I've had instances where there were relatives, where I advised the person that sits up here, you got to step down. It's just tell people why. You don't have to tell them that you hate each other, but you can say, our relationship goes a long way. I've known this person for 10 years, and I wouldn't want anybody to think that the fact that we know each other had any influence on my vote. So I'm gonna step down. So that's kind of bias. That's a somewhat of an extreme example of bias. The internal biases that we have based on people's hair color, whatever, obviously should never influence our decision. But if we do have one and we think that we can be impartial, then we should step down. You don't have to say why specifically, but if there's some reason that you don't think that you can objectively listen to what they're asking you to do, then you should not sit up here for that particular item. Strive for impartiality, unaffected personal matters, yeah. Disclose ex parte communications on the, so if you've been approached by the applicants, you know, it doesn't matter whether it's a developer or a singular, you know, owner of a small little restaurant that needs an ABC license, it is appropriate to say, you know, I spoke with so-and-so on this and this date. They told me about the project. I listened and I thanked them. Okay? Just let everybody know that there was contact. Don't make commitments during ex parte contacts, because one thing that you'll know for certain, that if they're calling you and asking you about whether you like the project or don't like the project or how you're going to vote, depending on how direct they are, they're calling everybody else. And that creates an illegal meeting. It's called a hub and spoke meeting, where one source gets information from different people, and now all of a sudden, and also that rarely is going to get discovered per se. But here's the problem. Not so much on the planning commission, but even so, like there are some controversial items. The inclusionary ordinance one, the cell tower was another one, where people have a lot of emotions in this, and they're involved. I have found that if somebody who sits up here spends a lot of time talking and trading opinions with the applicant and doing that outside of the meeting, you run a risk of somebody standing up there and, truthfully or otherwise, saying, how can you vote on this no when you and I talked yesterday, you say you're going to vote yes? And A, it's embarrassing. B, it's probably a lie. But people have a lot of money that's, at stake here for some of these projects, the developers. So they will do anything to get a project approved. So again, we don't have a lot of very controversial, very kind of high-charge projects, but the warning is the same. If you speak to anybody who's going to come before you on this, disclose it. If they ask you how you're going to vote, My recommendation's always been, and I do this on my one-on-one talks with anybody who's taking this position or council member, or future council member, say, look, until I hear from the public in a meeting, until I hear what my other colleagues have to say on the commission, I'm not going to commit to doing one way or the other, okay? Please come, I heard your concerns, please come to the meeting, tell the whole commission about it, and we all talk about it, and we'll make a decision as a group. I don't want to make an individual decision until I hear from the public, until I hear from other colleagues on the commission, so, don't ask me how I'm going to vote.
But you are okay to express your opinion?
I personally would advise you not to, okay? My recommendation has always been, don't give your opinion. What is the purpose of you individually giving your opinion to the applicant? All he's doing is counting votes.
Oh, no, I'm talking about to the applicants. I'm talking about, like, if some kind of, I'm not talking about a project, right, like cell tower thing, right?
Okay.
It affects to wider community, right? And then the community members know that you are on the commissions.
Mm-hmm.
What if they approach you and they ask you, hey, they would say, we feel about this, what is your opinion?
Mm-hmm.
So are you violating anything at all if you express your opinion,
Yes.
but not committing to the, any votes?
I'm going to say yes. I have disqualified a council member in one city where I was the city attorney because he wrote a letter to a resident condemning a project that was coming before them, saying, you were right, this project is going to hurt the community, blah, blah, blah. Completely predisposed. So where is the fair hearing? Where is the opportunity for due process? When somebody comes up here and has already expressed a strong opinion in one direction before hearing the staff report, before hearing the public, before hearing the commissioners speak on the subject. So that is my advice. It's not illegal unless it's just so over the top that I have no choice but to say, no, you should recuse yourself. I'm never going to know about that conversation probably unless you write a letter or do something like that. But my advice to avoid that tension, my advice is listen, and that's your role. Absolutely, don't push people away who want to talk to you about the project, even the applicant. If he wants to talk to you about the project, that's fine. Community members, listen, absorb, take the information in, but don't commit. Don't give an opinion, okay? I need to think about it. I understand what you're saying. I understand your concerns. But I need to see what the staff has to say about this. I need to see what the applicant has to say about this. I need to see what my other commissioners have to say about this before I make a decision how I feel about this project. Especially on the issues that are kind of high sensitive issues, like the tower, inclusionary ordinance, some of the other things that are just magnets for, low-income housing. Everybody, those are things that will bring out a lot of emotional testimony in a lot of people. My recommendation, my legal advice to you is that you don't do that. Only reach conclusions or make findings based upon the evidence in the record. And evidence on the record is only what you hear here, or if you went and talked to somebody or saw the site, you can say that in your hearing, then it becomes part of the record. I went to the site and I saw where they're going to put the tower, and I think it's too close to the fence where the school sits. Okay? That's evidence, and that's basis for your decision or your opinion. Conflict of interest, when to recuse yourself, when you have to step down. Law requires you to recuse yourself when it is reasonably foreseeable that a governmental decision will have a material financial effect on any of your economic interests. Okay, what does material mean? Your property is subject to the decision or is within 500 feet of the subject property, the 500-foot rule. If your property is within 500 feet of the subject property, you may be able to participate with that PPC's approval. Also it's a presumption. You and I, we had that, I think, in the last meeting or 2 meetings ago. There's a presumption of a financial interest. It is rebuttable. In other words, if you can point to evidence that says this will have no financial effect on my property, then you can, if that evidence is compelling and it's clear, then you can deliberate the item.
Question on that. What happens if a majority are conflicted out on a commission and you're legally required to take a vote? Isn't there some kind of a process to deal with that, or?
Excellent question, Vice Chair. Yes. It's called the rule of necessity. And it is a process by which you basically, those who have to participate do, even if they have a conflict, and they count towards the quorum, and it's just, it's the way it is. If there's no avoiding it, then you have to have at least 3 that they need to make a decision.
We draw straws or something?
I've done different things. You can draw straws, we can rock, paper, scissors. There's various ways of, if you have 2 that are, or 3 that are conflicted and only need 1 of those 3 to participate. And in those actually instances, they actually don't vote. Only the other 2 vote, but they're there on the dais to keep the quorum. If you can't overcome personal bias, it's also a conflict. Generally speaking, and again, we're getting down into the weeds now, it's a $2,000 a year financial interest right now, I think is the number. It can be to you, your spouse, or your closest relatives, children, grandparents, et cetera. It also can be, there are different examples. I had a planning commission recuse themselves from an item because the applicant would have, if the project was approved, the applicant would have bought a boat full of lumber from a shop, from a commercial store that the planning commissioners, I think it was his wife, owned it, or her father owned it. It wasn't him.
Well, lumber.
Wasn't, yeah, some.
The local lumber shop.
It was a local lumber shop. And he just went like, you know what, it's too close. I'm going to recuse myself, because if that project goes through, a whole bunch of money is coming to our family. And I don't want anybody thinking that I voted based on that. So. That is true, but yeah, I'll tell you a really anecdotal story, very briefly, but just to show you how significant these rules are. There's a rule that's called 1090 rule. A planning commission member or city council member may not participate or be a part of making an agreement or a contract that has any financial benefit to that council member. And that's not you can't recuse yourself. The contract is invalid. You can't, it's state law. It's actually a criminal offense. So it's not a question of just stepping down. The body cannot make that contract. I was a city attorney for King City for several years. King City sits in the middle of Salinas Valley, I guess, and it is.
Driven through it.
Yeah, it's 45 minutes from Paso Robles and 45 minutes from Salinas. At that time she was a mayor. My mayor owned a glass shop in the city, in town. She put glass in, she sold glass. in
Probably
construction.
only glass for 100 miles.
It was the only glass for 100 miles, or a little less. When I became the city attorney, I found out that somebody broke a glass in a city building, she would come in, have the people put the glass in at her cost. She would make no money from it, but she would do that. And because she was, in the middle of the night, you either board it up with plywood or,
Right.
and so I told her she can't do that. Well, I don't make any money. I said, well, we'll go to the FPPC. We'll ask the FPPC. You can request an opinion. And FPPC, knowing all the facts, the fact that if it's middle of the night, it's going to be 24 hours before, if we're lucky, before anybody gets there, and now you have an unsecured, you got to board it up. They didn't care. It doesn't matter that she didn't make any money on this. The city was not permitted to make an agreement with her, basically not permitted to buy glass from her, whether or not she made money or not. It's a 1090 violation. So the rules are pretty strict.
So this means that we can't start our Four Guys burger shop instead of Five Guys, Four Guys?
Four guys, yeah. Yeah. Instead of five guys, you can start at four guys, as long as you're not selling food to city events. Findings, let's talk a little bit about findings. And you will note that most of your decisions, most of your staff reports and resolutions contain findings that are recommended by staff. Those are not, you're not bound by them. They're not, the staff is not making the findings. Staff is laying out the findings that they believe are supportable by the substantial evidence in the record. So findings are written statements of fact explaining how and why a particular decision was made. Okay? Request for judicial decision, courts generally defer for proper administrative findings. So if somebody appeals your decision to the city council, and then city doesn't like what the city council decides, and they sue, they file a writ, the court is going to want all the records. In other words, the transcript of the hearing, the staff report, any emails, or that's called the administrative record. Everything that pertained to a project that is somebody sued over. And that administrative record has to have facts that support the substantial evidence. In other words, that there must be the finding must be supported by substantial evidence that is in the record, that is prepared as part of the whole process. Avoid leaping from evidence to conclusions. Instead, bridge the analytical gap. Every other restaurant in this shopping center, and there are 7 of them, has a liquor license. Yes, we know that this is an oversaturation, but evidence presented dictates that we grant this license because we'll be depriving that one restaurant of the same benefits and privileges that the rest of the restaurants in the same shopping center have, thus treating them unequally. So that's a bridge, analytical gap. Planning Commission may disagree with staff's findings, as I said, but in that case, there need to be facts. There need to be, you okay? Water? All right. There need to be facts that support a different finding. You may say, no, you know what, and again, it doesn't have to be you as a group. One of you can say, you know what, I just said, I can't make that finding. I don't agree with that. I think that these facts
Outweigh those facts.
yeah, and so I'm going to vote no. And that's really good. There is no requirement that every project that goes through this planning commission is approved unanimously. You know, you guys are free to disagree and free to vote accordingly. The only, you know, caution that I have for that is that if you're going to vote against the project, especially when it's a project that is in the track, legal track, and we'll cover a little bit of state law, you must state specific facts that support that, and those facts have to be facts. They can't be opinions. Can't be, I just don't like it, or I think that the neighbors are going to hate it, or, you know, that's not a fact. That's an opinion. CEQA. Most of the projects, basically all of the projects that are evaluated on CEQA, a lot of them are exempt. CEQA is California Environmental Quality Act, and it basically requires a public agency before approving a project, which is defined also, to make an environmental evaluation. Is that project going to have any significant environmental effects on the environment? And if so, can those be mitigated? And you'll have mitigated negative declarations, and you also have EIRs, an environmental impact report, that can be prepared that shows that some things can't be mitigated. And then in that case, you're asked to make findings of overriding consideration. In other words, we know that having a dial ride in the city with carbon-burning cars will create a lot of smog and unhealthy air. However, we have a senior population of 20,000 people who can't get to their doctor appointments, who can't get to this, and therefore we are willing to override that impact and make a finding that says, in spite of the fact that the transit system will create smog in the city, we are going to find that it should exist, because the benefit to the public, to the city, is far greater than the impact that it has on the environment. You'll rarely deal with those things. Again, prevents significant or valuable damage to the environment, discloses publicly a reason why a government agency approved the project if it involves significant environmental effects. That's what we talked about. There's also mitigation measures that can be adopted which require the applicant to mitigate those efforts in some fashion. I just went through this. So is it a project? Is it project exempt from further review? A lot of them are. If it's an infill project, there's a number of them exceptions. So water-related projects, there's several. You don't need to environmentally evaluate it. But if so, then you got to figure out whether it's an EIR, environmental impact report, negative declaration, or a mitigated negative declaration. State law limiting local authority. For the last, I've been doing this for 38 years. In the last 15 years, maybe 20, yeah, the state has continued to strip away our local authority to deal with our local situations, our zoning laws, our planning laws, our density laws. And whether you agree or disagree with the state's reasoning or the driving forces that are involved in getting these laws passed, the fact is that they exist. You know, the most recent SB 8, SB 9, allowing people to divide their lots into small parcels and put more housing on it. Agree or disagree, it removes discretionary approvals from that process. As long as it meets the zoning, as long as it meets the development standards, you're building up to code, basically. The city can't say, you can't do that. So no more NIMBYs. And it avoids that. It avoids people coming to you and yelling and screaming because low-income housing is going in next door. The flip side of that is it overdensifies, creates parking issues, there's a myriad of issues that are created on the other side of the equation. And I'm not opining one way, what is good, what is bad. It just is. Housing Accountability Act, it really deprives cities and planning commissions and staff of decision-making, subjective decision-making, discretionary decision-making.
Is that the one that makes each city add so many units by such and such a year?
No, that's another one. It's actually a federal law, but yeah, it's the arena numbers is what the chair is talking about. And RENA doesn't require the city to build them. It requires the city to take all necessary steps to make land available for anyone who wants to build them. In other words, you have to have the right zoning, you have to have the right development standards, you can't have, we're not going to build anything over two-story type of stuff. Anything that would limit somebody's ability to meet these RENA numbers, regional housing need assessment. The regional housing need assessment is called. You can't pass laws that would limit that. And if you don't get your housing development, the housing element approved, then you're at risk of getting sued. And California just sued one city over that. And also you're at risk of losing any federal funding. So federal money can be withheld if you don't have an approved housing element.
Also, what is it called, the builder's remedy comes into play, the law now that was never used before, but now,
Right.
yeah.
But yeah,
Can you elaborate on the builder?
builder's remedy, whew.
Go down a rabbit hole.
No, that's okay. It basically allows a developer, used to allow a developer to just move forward with projects as long as there was sufficient land and code was met. I don't believe it's applicable to residential projects. I think it's only in commercial settings. But it's basically a workaround. If you can't get approval, there used to be a workaround. But that has been greatly limited. Local agency must approve housing development projects that comply with all objective rules in the general plan, zoning, and design development standards. Any exceptions for such approval must be supported by preponderance of evidence in the record that will have specific adverse impact on public health and safety. So the only time that a city has a discretion in approving or not approving such a project is if there is clear evidence that there will be an adverse impact on public health and safety.
Not opinion or speculation?
Not opinion, not speculation, not history, and it needs to be a fact. Brown Act, okay, a little bit about the meetings. Again, it's a law that guarantees a public right to attend, like we said, everything we do needs to be agendized and needs to be in an open meeting. So, what is not a meeting? This tells you what a meeting is. A meeting is any congregation or majority of you to deliberate, discuss, or take action on anything that is within your subject matter. So, if the three of you get together at a local restaurant with the agenda and sit there and go like, okay, on this one we're going to do this, on this one we're going to do that, that is an extreme example of an illegal meeting. You're not allowed to do that. If one of you calls the other, another member on the commission, and says, hey, I'm struggling with this project, with the cell tower. I'm having this issue. I don't even know how I'm going to vote on it. What are your thoughts on it? That person gives you their thoughts. Two of you discussing it, technically speaking, not a violation of a Brown Act. But if one of you calls another member on the planning commission, or another member calls you and says, hey, you know, I'm struggling with this, the first thing you need to say, I can't talk to you. I spoke to Commissioner so-and-so, and if I talk to you, it'll be a legal meeting, so I can't talk to you. That's what you need to do. That's what the law requires you to do.
Wouldn't that also be an ex parte disclosure that you've
Well,
had a
so-
conversation?
well, if you had, if, law doesn't require you to say that I spoke to this commissioner about this. Because technically speaking, they're not an interested party. So there is no such a requirement. But,
So ex parte disclosures are only where there's an interested party that you had a conversation.
well, yeah, you had a conversation with the developer, or you had a conversation with a member of the public.
Okay.
Yeah, that's,
Got it.
there's no law that precludes you from saying, but you then run a risk of somebody on the other end or on this end saying, oh, wait a minute, I talked to him too. So now we got a serious problem. Yeah. So you need to be careful about those things. I will tell you also social media. You gotta watch out, you know, reply to all, or people emailing you and then emailing somebody else. So if your concurrence or your thoughts, and they don't have to concur, are somehow linked together from a quorum of you, whether that's through an applicant, whether that's through a member of the public, or through one of you, it constitutes an illegal meeting. You know, there's been, as I just mentioned, there was one lawsuit in Thousand Oaks. Somebody sued the city for violating the Brown Act. There are few and far in between, frankly. They're not, you know, people don't run around suing you for Brown Act violations. But Brown Act violation is a misdemeanor. A district attorney could decide if it's serious enough to prosecute. And it is embarrassing. If you're up here and it turns out that, you know, Brown Act was violated, it's not any fun. Not for you, not for staff, not for the city council that appointed you. Individual conversation with members of the legislative body and any other person do not violate Brown Act, like I said. If it constitutes a majority of the legislative body, the same thing, hub and spoke, surreal meeting. It's your duty as a member of the legislature to halt the conversation if you believe a surreal meeting is taking place. Like I said, I can't talk to you. You know, I just spoke to Commissioner so-and-so and, you know, otherwise. Social media, just talked about that. It also applies to social media. So anything that, where you think the majority of you is somehow gonna be combined into a whether it's a digital conversation or a phone conversation or whatever, you run a risk of violating the Brown Act. And that social media stuff is serious. There's a case out of the South, I believe Georgia or Alabama, I can't remember, county, they're called supervisors over there, had a supervisor had a website, a Facebook site, and somebody after the meeting just blasted her on her Facebook site, and she went home and she unliked him. She blocked that person for 16 minutes. 16 minutes later, and I don't know why, what reason, she came to her senses or she spoke to the county council, whatever, she let him back in. She went, no, I can't do that. He sued, and the court said that she violated his constitutional rights. If you have it's not a meeting, but if you have a public presence on your Facebook page, you need to know that if you discuss city business on that web page or Facebook post or whatever, I barely use Facebook, so I mean, there's now Instagram, there's a whole bunch of other platforms, I guess, that your presence on there, if you discuss city business, is you're creating a public forum. So you can't block people, you can't unlike people, whatever it is that you do on those other things, without taking a risk of somebody saying you're violating their constitutional rights. They're, just like you can't tell people to shut up when they're standing up there. It's,
That's not, so you're saying then that's not just like a city council person's official city council Facebook page as a city council member, that's their personal Facebook.
Right.
page as well, and even then, they can't, unlike someone who.
Yep.
is on-
if you're doing business on your Facebook page, your own Facebook page, if you're talking about city business, if you're talking about, and most council members do, you guys don't do so much probably because you're not that involved in everyday city business. But if you do, if you talk to the public on your Facebook page about city business, you've created a public forum. So you got to be really careful about how you treat anybody that jumps on there and spills their guts to you, one way or good or bad. It creates a public forum.
This explains why you didn't respond to my friend request.
You know what? I look at my Facebook page maybe 3 times a month, 4 times a month, maybe. My friends know that I just, my wife is constant. We have an Instagram for rescuing pets. She's immensely active on you know, in that area. But I don't have time. I just don't have time to be doing that.
What if your Facebook page is just family and friends only?
But if it's family and friends only, and you're discussing city business, it's still a public forum. So if one of your friends tells you something that you really don't like, and you unlike them, whether it's related to the city or not, if you discuss city business on your Facebook page, you just got to be really careful. My advice is, and I know it's a pain in the behind apparently, but because again, I just don't do that, is have 2 separate, you have a public presence, you have a Facebook that's your public persona, you're the council member, the planning commissioner, and you have a Facebook that's your personal Facebook, just like phones. By the way, any business that you do on your cell phone that relates to the city is subject to disclosure under Public Records Act. The city has an obligation to ask you, do you have any texts or messages or any other form of communication that relates to this particular subject? If somebody had a Public Records Act request, I want all communications about the CUP number 25015, that we just approved. City is obligated to ask you. We're not obligated to take your phone from you and search for them yet. I think the law is probably going to move in that direction in one fashion or another, because right now it's a word of honor system where the city clerk will contact the planning commissioner or council member and say, any text you have on this and this issue. And we had that. We had texts that we had in the city from a personal phone that we produced because it's required.
So I have a question. Situations. I think it's okay, but I just want to get clarification. Like, for example, if, since like we're at the Plan Commission, the City Council doesn't really touch much of the Plan Commission. They depend on us to do all the Plan Commission items.
Mhm.
So what if, let's say a council kind of, hey, Danny, you might want to bring this item up, and talk about Plan Commission. Now, would that be like a violation of the Brown Act?
If a council member talked to you about bringing an item up?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. To deliberate as a commissions and talk about it.
If 3 council members contacted you,
Okay.
or if the council member said, I spoke to council member so-and-so and mayor so-and-so, and it's our opinion that you should talk about this, if that discussion among the 3 of them didn't occur at a public meeting, then they violated the Brown Act. You didn't, but they did.
Say that again?
Sure. If a council member calls you and says, I spoke to council member A and B, and we decided that you, Danny, you need to bring up the subject in the planning commission. their conversation about this issue, council member A, B, and C, which is a quorum of the council, 3 council members is a quorum of a council, unless it occurred at a council meeting and was posted and agendized, it was a violation of the Brown Act. Their meeting was a violation of the Brown Act. You didn't violate the Brown Act, they did. Are you following me? Not really? Okay.
I
So
want
let's
to
say-
crystal clear.
Let's do it differently, let's do it differently.
Yeah. I want to make sure
You-
it's crystal clear.
Let's say, Vice Chair, the Chair, and you, as you're leaving out here today, say, you know what, I think that we're gonna go straight to the council with this liquor license thing, okay? So, Chair, why don't you call the mayor and just tell her that, you know, the planning commission wants some money for staff to be able to do that study for oversaturation of liquor licenses. And the chair calls the mayor and says, hey, I talked to planning commissioners and this is what we decided. Your meeting outside that door as you're walking out was illegal,
Okay, got it, okay.
okay?
Got it.
Any other questions? Anything else that I can cover? And I invite all of you and any of you to pick up the phone and call me with any questions. It's a lot easier to ask for permission than it is to ask for forgiveness, because once you've done it, I can't undo it. I can either tell you you're okay, or I can tell you call your lawyer. So, because I'm not your lawyer, I'm the city's lawyer. I serve the planning commission, I serve the staff. I'm not your individual attorney. So I encourage you, and I'm obviously exaggerating to make a point. Anything comes up, you have any questions, anything that's on your mind, I would love to get still with you and spend a little bit more time, just get you up to speed on a little more about the conflicts and about Brown actors, a little more I think that you and I haven't discussed yet. But anytime you're free, just let me know. I'll make myself available. But I'm a resource, just like Sam is, just like anybody in here. Our job is to make sure that you guys are prepared to do your job, that you're successful at your job. We don't, like I said before, we don't have a horse in the race. We're not promulgating or you know, we're not trying to advance, you know, any cause or another. So use us as a resource. And just like any resource, you either agree with what we say or you don't, and that's okay too. I know what I told you about certain things just 10 minutes ago, you know, about not giving opinions about a project. That's probably not something that you agree with, and that's fine. I get that. But at least you have my point of view on it, or you'll have staff's point of view on it, and then use it however, you know, you decide to use it. That's how that works.
I can give you an example of a recusal that I did. So I didn't like the hedge height law that's in the planning code. So because it said if your front hedge, you know, could only be 4 feet and side hedges could only be 6 feet, and to me that didn't provide privacy. I also have a kind of unique property. So in any case, and I wanted privacy. And I also didn't want coyotes coming over. So I went to the city council meeting, and they have a moment where you can add something to the agenda. And I asked them to add the hedge height rule to the agenda. I think it needed to be reviewed and removed, in my personal opinion. So I did that. Then it got on the agenda, and then it came here. And I was told about it when I arrived, and it was the last item on the agenda, so I just left, and you guys discussed it. But, you know, if there is something in the code that you want to add, right, like a liquor saturation limit or, you know, a more stringent environmental inspection or whatever, I think you should go to the city council and say, I want this on the agenda, so that, okay. Yeah, go ahead. Call time.
I'm just going to make a distinction here. Your situation involved solely your property and you personally, so it was a direct effect on you. So you personally going to the city council and saying, yeah, this is what we want to do, is perfectly fine, and it worked out. You gave an example of liquor license. That's a citywide problem. I would recommend that before you go to the city council and say, we want to change this, that you have that discussion as a group. Unless you're going there solely as an individual and saying, I'm on the planning commission, but I'm not speaking for the planning commission. I'm just speaking for me. Too many liquor stores, too many restaurants with booze around town. We need to do something about it. That's fine. That's perfectly appropriate, and like you said, it may or may not, get you a result that you're looking for.
You're making an important distinction. I agree.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anything else that I can go through? You please keep those, yeah.
Yeah, not on this, it's pretty clear. Oh, no, not on this. But do we have like a kind of like open talking discussion right after this, or that's it?
What do you mean?
If y'all want to bring up like an item to
There's
talk
commissioner
about.
comments, right? There's on the agenda, you have commissioner comments, so if you have a comment, you certainly can make it. If you have a question, feel free to ask it, and if I feel that we're going off the railroad tracks, I'll let everybody know, but feel free. Fair, if that's all right with you?
Yeah, that's fine. That's what the commissioner comment period's for. You're talking about making a comment right now?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay, because we're under questions anyway, so.
Oh, okay.
Question, comment, mock snakes.
Go ahead. But it's not on this, he said.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's not on.
not on this, not on this.
Well, there's a commissioner comments, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
number 6 on the agenda.
this is number 6 on the agenda.
Number 6 on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay. So we are concluding the planning commissioner workshop. No other questions? Okay. Moving on to number 5, comments from the assistant director.
Yes, thank you, Chair and members of the commission. Staff would like to inform the commission that Commissioner Carney, for personal reasons, has resigned from the commission. So we do currently have a vacancy. The city clerk's office is receiving applications until the end of the month. So the application period will close, I believe it's Friday, January 30th at 5 p.m., and this is an online submittal, as the commission is aware. This will be separate from the applications required for around May, when the terms expire. So this is a separate application just to fill in the vacancy. So it's open, whoever has interest in applying. As to whether or not those applications will also continue into the May applications, that is something for the city council and the clerk's office to still work out. But there is a recruitment for the vacancy. But we do want to thank Commissioner Carney for all his time and for coming to all the meetings. As we're all aware, this is voluntary, and at least from staff's perspective, we're always very appreciative of it. It takes a lot of time to review the packets, and to know all the information that's required, and the workshop this evening is an example of it. So we definitely appreciate all the time that Commissioner Carney has committed to the Planning Commission, and we wish him well, and we hope he's doing okay, and that we'll see him around.
I second that. I really enjoyed working with George. Really charming.
Yeah, and that's it for staff's comment.
Okay, commissioner comments. So now we're on section 6. Commissioner Tang?
Okay, so I have 3 items. I hope it'll be quick. So I think the first item is, I know there's a lot of new ADU law and the SB 460 about the SB 9. I would like to know more about it, and maybe we can get some more information for like the, if possible in the next meeting or the next meeting, probably from staff. That would be wonderful. The second item I want to talk about, oh, sorry, do I stop there or do I can't go? So second item that I see that, I see, driving around, I see a lot of bike user, which is great. We have the bike path, but I feel like it's a little dangerous because I think it's I think either type A, B, C, something like that. I feel like it's kind of dangerous. I see a lot of high school students use it, a lot of people with their electric bike at night. I feel like it's really dangerous on Del Mar. So I would recommend to have a different type of bike. The way how it's set up, type A, B, C, is like the level of safety of it. Because one type is you share the road with the vehicular. The other type is you have maybe something like Temple City sort of kind of have it. They have a car. Yeah, level 1, 2, 3. So it'll be like a moving lane, and then there'll be car park. I think Del Mar will be a perfect spot for it, and then the inside lane will be protected by by all these moving vehicles. So I was wondering, if we can propose this delivery and send it to the council. Maybe they can have some kind of funding trying to allocate it to pretty much kind of like pushing toward like bike-friendly city, so people can
So you're just generally asking about adding more bike lanes? Is that-
or changing the type, the existing one more safer than what it is. Yeah.
Okay. I've seen what they've done up in Pasadena, and it's a mess. You've got.
On Union?
On Union, specifically on Union. That one is a disaster.
Now we're getting past the point
Uh-huh.
of, it's okay for him to make a comment. The moment we start exchanging ideas and getting into what works, what doesn't, I think staff will talk about this. It's an immensely complicated issue. I'm not trying to discourage you from, but it involves, first of all, a lot of money, but more importantly, just space. I've been doing this for a little bit, and just being able to expand the bike lane in your plan, or make it wider, make it safer, put a median or a curve in between. You're talking about millions of dollars for a few blocks. If there's space, it depends on how wide the street is, depends on what the parking is like. It's an important issue. I think that there's nothing wrong with maybe letting the council know that the planning commission, if it's something that's coming from all of you, or majority of you, maybe we can agendize it, and maybe, it's up to you, but maybe just so we have an opportunity to discuss it. And then we can, we don't have to do a lot of work on it, just talk about it. And then whatever decision the body makes as a whole, we can send to the council.
Yeah.
All right.
And the third?
The third item is, I think, was the last meeting with the city council. I think the last meeting of the year, December 16 or something like that. Don't quote me on that. I think it was the last meeting. I believe council unanimously talk about like the process of getting permit from the business and the resident is taking a lot of time. Is because of trying to make it more streamlined than what we have. If we can look at it and trying to kind of help streamline. I think it was like permit overall.
Talking about building permits.
Yeah, building permits overall. I think that's what it is. So maybe I don't know if there's a way to make it more streamlined than what we have.
I will tell you, if city council is already talking about it,
Yeah.
then they have it.
Okay.
If they decide they want to move with it, I don't know that there's a lot more than the planning commission can do. Now, they may send it back to you, they may decide that there's something.
Actually, it's kind of trying to have transparency on this. Is
But we absolutely no reason for you, again, another example, some people call individually,
yeah.
a planning.
You know which one I'm for.
Mayor,
Yeah.
and talk to them about it.
Okay. Well, that's all I have, and yeah. But yeah, thanks.
Any other commissioner comments?
Just briefly, yes, I just wanted to say, yes, I'm going to miss Commissioner Carney on the commission, and I really appreciate, his time here and his, service to the city. So, yeah, he will be missed, and I hope all is well.
I concur. Commissioner Lee, anything, or?
No, just want to make a brief statements that we're gonna miss George and Commissioner George, and his time over here and his dedication is, we've seen it enough on this body. So I hope he's doing well, and we're gonna see him around.
I hope so too. With that, I'll adjourn the meeting.